Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Today Show Detroit, right here on the Disability Channel. We are so excited to have you, and I am so excited to welcome our guest for today, Mr. Alex Gossage. He is the Executive Director of the Ann Arbor, Livingston, and Monroe Centers for Independent Living. We are so excited, folks, so please stay with us.
Would you like to donate to our employment programs? Please follow the link below to donate through PayPal. All proceeds go to our programs.
Hi, my name is Julia Ramaldi. Please come join us on the Disability Channel. Please stay tuned, we have amazing guests.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Today Show Detroit. I am Zach Damon, joined by the one and only Alex Gossage, the Executive Director of the Ann Arbor, Livingston, and Monroe Centers for Independent Living. Welcome, Alex. How are you?
Hey. Good, Zach. Thanks for having me.
Oh, man, it is a pleasure. If you don't mind, because you have a wonderful, extensive resume in the community work, I'd love to just jump right in, if that's okay.
Sure. Yeah, happy to.
Awesome. So you earned your Bachelor's of Science in History from the University of California, Santa Barbara. But I was curious, Alex, what led you sort of to Michigan from the West Coast? I mean, are you from the West Coast originally?
So I was born out in California, but actually most of my youth was spent growing up in the south suburbs of Chicago. So I am a Midwesterner, more or less. And I think I found after I was done with college that I wanted to move back to the Midwest. It was more my speed. The people were more my people. And at that time, my folks no longer lived in Chicago. They actually lived out in Ann Arbor. And so I kind of moved back this way to be closer to some family. And that was kind of it. I've just been here ever since. I love Ann Arbor. I love Michigan. And I'm happy to be here.
Oh, and we're happy to have you, Alex. And of course, speaking of Ann Arbor, I mean, you first joined the Ann Arbor CIL in 2004 as a volunteer, then with AmeriCorps Vista, and you were providing research for new grant programs. But then you became a full-time employee in 2006, and then since served in progressive roles therein, and just doing great work. And of course, in August 2015, you became the Associate Director for the Ann Arbor Center for Independent Living, and then became Interim Executive Director in 2017. And of course, with all of that, that led you to launch some new services, including employment services, benefits counseling, and one of my favorites, the Empower You Business Incubator, which is very fascinating. And then, of course, you also were very instrumental in the growth of disability awareness programs for school-age youth, and of course, transportation workers, and then established a wide range of social and recreation programs. And of course, you were very involved in the expansion of both the Monroe and Livingston locations. So a lot there, but I wanted to know from you, Alex, when did you first realize that you had a strong passion for development, implementation, and sort of the supervision of disability awareness programs?
Of those programs specifically, I think as a person with a disability myself, I have spina bifida. I think I recognized growing up in the 80s and the 90s as a kid that those sorts of opportunities weren't happening. It was me kind of doing these things by myself, probably not doing them very well. And I do think creating awareness, creating education really does allow all kids, all youth, disabilities or not, to not only just, I think, become better people, but also become people that are more willing to include everybody within their friendship circles, in their other social circles and activities and things of that nature, which is absolutely vital to their growth.
Absolutely. And I mean, you touched on an interesting point. So I just wanted to ask about this too. But you talked about how, generally you were the only one sort of taking active steps early on. Do you think, in your opinion, do you think a lot of individuals face that challenge? They're sort of the only one kind of, advocating or trying to get some resources.
I think it can depend. I wish when I was younger I had, and I probably wouldn't have liked it, but I think when I was younger and when I was a teenager, I probably really could have benefited from an organization like the Center for Independent Living or other disability rights and disability advocacy organizations that help to create that community and that feeling of empowerment and acceptance of disability. And I didn't have that, I think, growing up for a long, long time and fought against it. And just having been at the center for the first few years, I remember the changes that it was making in how I felt about myself and really how I saw the community around me.
Absolutely, and you bring up a good point too of just how the community around us can change and evolve, and you currently are again the executive director of the Ann Arbor, Livingston, and Monroe Centers for Independent Living, and I'd like to touch, if you don't mind, just on their mission and what they do because I think it's important. So simply put, the Ann Arbor CIL is run by people with disabilities for people with disabilities. And of course, the CIL, you provide what people would like for sort of a positive life and what we feel would be, making things possible for people with disabilities. And of course, since 1976, you have worked hand in hand with others to help others live the life that they want to live. And of course, at the Ann Arbor Center for Independent Living, their mission is to, quote, empower the lives of people with disabilities and advocate for a more inclusive community for all, unquote. And of course, in addition to providing individualized access, community advocacy, and of course, group workshops for the self improvement, you are also a dynamic community enrichment and recreation center filled with events and activities to help others connect with people and, of course, their passions. But I wanted to know, because there's a lot there, Alex, but to you personally, why is this mission important?
Well, to me personally, again, I am a person with a disability. The independent living movement was founded by people with disabilities for people with disabilities. That peer component was absolutely vital to the independent living movement's growth early on in their development. Our Center for Independent Living was one of the first few centers for independent living founded in the United States, but now there are hundreds around the United States. There's 14 here in Michigan, and there's others also around North America as well. So to me, this is the opportunity, I think, to create, for me at least, it's been this opportunity to create a greater sense of community, a greater sense of belonging, and I think also providing me that space and opportunity to understand, what are the things that are important to me, what are the things that are worth fighting for, and again, why all of this is so important, and why. Yeah, I guess that's all I have to say about that.
No. I mean, you covered it very well, Alex. And I understand, and you and I both understand this. There is an unfortunate stigma with that word, disability, right? And I think even individuals that have a disability can kind of be hesitant. So for all the young people out there that have disabilities that are looking for that home away from home, that community, but they're hesitant to join a center or get involved with the center or just come and see what it's about and visit and see the activities or get involved. What do you have to say to them? Why should they do it?
I think it's important to find each and every opportunity and utilize each and every opportunity that you can to be proud of yourself, to be proud of who you are, to recognize that, yes, your disability is a part of who you are. And that's not a bad thing. That's a good thing in so many different ways. I think for me, when I think about young folks, when I think about people connecting to the disability community or the word disability. Terminology and vocabulary really is something that goes across a spectrum where, we used people first language for a long time, and now there's, pushing for identity first language amongst a lot of folks. So people just recognizing that their disability is a vital part of who they are. It's not something to be ashamed of. But again, I don't know that you can necessarily do that sort of thinking, changing, and growth on your own. Or if you do, it's going to be slower than if you were to have a community behind you helping to support you and bring you along.
No, absolutely. I completely agree. I mean, and I think that sense of community is extremely, extremely important. Folks, we're going to take a quick break, and we'll have more with Alex Gossage, the Executive Director of the Ann Arbor, Livingston, and Monroe Centers for Independent Living right after this.
Hello world, it is Unstoppable Tracy with the Disability Channel inviting you to subscribe and watch live on Roku TV, on YouTube, on Restream, and also listen in Wisconsin Radio, Dave Stevens, all around the world. And on top of all of this, really proud to announce that we now also have a mobile app. So you can download for free, watch Roku TV for free, and the mobile app is free too from Google Drive. Be sure to download it and have it at your fingertips at all times. There's a job platform, and there's a live chat feature, and there's the TV feature with Roku TV, and there's also the social media channels. Take care, folks. Bye for now.
Hi, everyone. I am Master Sergeant Retired Anna Maria Blithen, and privileged to be the host of Veterans Onward to Prosperity. Each episode brings you more information, sources, and resources by which you can manage your life, live a life, and thrive in your life. So stay tuned to all of our episodes and be the best you can be.
Inclusion means that not only does everyone have a seat at the table, but everyone's voice is heard.
Having all voices present and then using those voices and experiences to enact change.
Inclusion means being thought of as a worthwhile, valued member of society.
Inclusion is everything to a person with a disability.
People with disabilities face obstacles to inclusion in transportation, housing, education.
The biggest issue that the disability community seems to be facing is a lack of access.
A lot of careers aren't necessarily geared toward our skill sets.
Social isolation. That's a big problem with people with disabilities.
Isolation from resources and isolation from their own family members.
The Ann Arbor Center for Independent Living is a disability rights and advocacy organization.
Independence is really not a one-size-fits-all model, and it looks different to everybody.
The Center for Independent Living is all about advocating for people with disabilities.
Helping people with disabilities live their best life the way that they choose.
An outlet for guidance and support.
The CIL stands for inclusion.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Today Show Detroit. I am Zach Damon, here with Alex Gossage, the Executive Director of the Ann Arbor, Livingston, and Monroe Centers for Independent Living. And, Alex, you touched on a great point right before the break, just about how important it is to have that supportive community and, be able to take advantage of those resources. So speaking of that, what would you say right now are some of the best resources that the Center for Independent Living offer?
I think so. Any Center for Independent Living offers services that I guess would evolve or revolve around what we call our core services. And those core services are peer support, independent living skill development, community transition, advocacy, and information and referral. And so really all of the things that we do I think stem not only from our mission, but having those core values and I think more importantly, or most importantly in my mind, is that our organization, our CIL, as well as all of the other Centers for Independent Living, are required to be or should be organizations that are a majority people with disabilities, and they're a majority both on staff as well as on the board, and that there's a spectrum of disabilities, because I think we do recognize there are a lot of organizations and agencies out there that do a lot of different things and support the disability community in a lot of different ways. And sometimes there's a very narrow focus, but I think having a broader focus is a good thing, is a better thing. It's a harder thing, but I think it's the right thing.
Absolutely. And, I had a question for you too, Alex, because, it's just great. I mean, you oversee Ann Arbor, then you oversee, Monroe, and you also oversee Livingston. So how does one guy oversee that?
It's not just me. So the programs you mentioned earlier, all of the work that has been done at the Center for Independent Living, it's always groups of people, and it's groups of people with and without disabilities, but it's work that's being led by people with disabilities. We have over 30 staff members working amongst our 3-county region here in Ann Arbor. And again, we also have our partner Centers for Independent Living around the state of Michigan who are serving their own service areas. But we do collectively come together on important topics, important policies, advocacy work, things of that nature. So it isn't me. It's never just me. It's like any nonprofit organization or non-governmental organization. It's the staff that you're able to have, but it's also the volunteers. It's the community support. All of those things. It's never as simple as one person. It's always a complicated thing with resources coming from many different directions, whether that's time, talent, or money.
Absolutely. And of course, being a big football fan for the University of Michigan, I'd like to quote the great Bo Schembechler and say, the team, the team, the team. Because as you said, it's all about that good team that's around you. And, you bring up a great point too, because you talk about how individuals with disabilities are professionals as well, and they're working with you, doing great professional work. I think it's interesting too that, I've seen a nice big push in the professional sector, looking to hire more individuals that are skilled, but just happen to have a disability. Have you noticed, more success in that, or is there still work to be done?
I think there's work to be done, and I think there's work to be done in all areas of our communities, of our society, so that people with disabilities do feel like and are, I think, more involved, more valued members of our communities, whether that's them working and the satisfaction they may get from employment, or the satisfaction that they get from participating in activities with their neighbors and their friends, and so on and so forth. So I think there are changes that have been made. I think it's slow. It's always slow. There's
right.
And it's been 31 years since yesterday that the Americans with Disabilities Act was signed.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that I would not be misspeaking by saying that there's a lot of work yet to be done. Not only to, I think, honor the intent of the original language of the Americans with Disabilities Act, but to go beyond it, to make sure that folks understand the things that our rights are those things that are highly valued, and that we are not at that same place right now as people with disabilities in terms of the opportunities that we may have in our communities.
I couldn't agree more. And folks, we're going to have more with Alex Gossage right after this.
All about inclusion and really giving everyone a fair say.
Well, Welcome to the Today Show. This is our flagship show. I am Unstoppable Tracy.
I am Zach Damon.
It is a pleasure to be here. I am excited. What is up?
We have a great show today.
Jay Stoyan here for the Disability Channel, the world's only inclusive channel for and by persons with disabilities.
Get ready to be inspired, everyone.
We have people watching from all over the world, but also all over Ontario.
We also take a concerted attention in the veterans community.
In moments of stress and trauma, we can get a hold of ourselves.
To help make a difference for people with disabilities, to show people how to love themselves or their disability.
I appreciate it. I appreciate you guys having me, giving this platform for myself and other people with disabilities.
Thank you so much, folks, for joining us for this episode of the Disability Channel Detroit. Please tune in next time. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Today Show Detroit. I am Zach Damon here with the one and only Alex Gossage, the Executive Director of the Ann Arbor, Livingston, and Monroe County Centers for Independent Living. So excited to have you, Alex. And of course, you touched on, again, an amazing point right before the break, how there has been work that's been done, but there's still a lot more progress that needs to be made. So that brings me to my next point. I mean, as the Executive Director, what is your dream for the Center for Independent Living?
I think the dream for the organization, or from my perspective, is probably the same thing that I hear from a lot of individuals who are working in nonprofit organizations, and that the dream is for us to not be needed any longer, for us to be able to close our doors because the work that we do is no longer needed, and everything that we have fought so hard for has been earned and has been accounted for. And so I think that's the ultimate dream. It's not so much our organization, but it's that our community is, one with everybody else. There aren't these sort of, ableist attitudes, ableist structures in our society that really do create barriers for people with disabilities. And I think that's the biggest piece there. And that's why I think working with our team at the center and working with our partners around the country and around the state is so important. Earlier in the episode here, you had mentioned a number of things that I've been involved with, not only as executive director, but prior to that. And honestly, I don't think I would give myself credit for doing any of those things. I think the credit goes to the folks that I'm working with every single day.
Wise words and great words too. And I mean, very impactful. I mean, I expected you to say something completely different in terms of what the dream would be, but totally makes sense, Alex, in terms of, the reality, right? Saying, look, the reality is if we don't have to provide this and the services are already there, then great. So yeah, completely understand for that. And speaking of, we've talked a lot about challenges, how work needs to continue to be done. But I'm curious, Alex, how have you guys adapted during the pandemic?
So yeah, we closed our offices down, and meaning that our staff were all working from home. At no point have we not worked or not been open during our regular office hours. At no point have our folks been in a place where they weren't able to be accounted for or weren't able to be reached if needed. And we've continued all of the work that we had done prior to COVID virtually. So that means virtual meetings, virtual workshops, all of those things. It was figuring out email, not necessarily email, but it was figuring out things like Zoom and using those things more effectively. It was figuring out how we as a team could work together, and also how we could do a better job of reaching out to the community, knowing that our access is limited in some ways or in many ways, and what we can do from there to continue to grow as an organization and change as an organization.
Absolutely, and I think it's amazing that you were able to adapt and continue to progress and move forward. And I think that says a lot about your staff and also yourself. So, congratulations to everyone at the Center for Independent Living for that.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm curious too, for all the little ones out there, the little boys and girls that have disabilities, and they're watching, and they're sort of unsure, right, how things are going to be for them. They're a little bit hesitant again to advocate or reach out or say they need help, different things. What advice do you have for those young boys and girls?
I would say don't hesitate to reach out. Don't hesitate to ask questions. I set goals for yourself. Focus on who you are and focus on who it is that you want to be, and go from there. If that takes setting new goals every time one gets created, then that's the way that we focus on. It's not about being your best. It's about being who it is that you want to be. Independent living is not anything more than or anything less than the ability uh, to live the way that I choose. And really, I think that that's the most important thing that we can all think about.
Absolutely. Folks, we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll have more with Alex.
Hi, this is Dave Stevens with the Disability Channel.
An inability to break out. I'm sitting by the door on the second floor, losing my 7-year war. It's not an illusion, so why the exclusion?
Yeah, it doesn't matter. It's about you. So,
you say you're a disability dynamo.
Joining me, and welcome to this beautiful Travelers Championship.
I only want one accolade from you.
So my story is unique, it's amazing, but it's not anything that you guys don't have inside of you. I'm not a hero, I'm not anybody special, I'm just this guy without legs that went out, and I just did it.
Stats outweigh the Democrats, the diplomats, and the bureaucrats.
This is probably your first interview down on the ground on your butt and stuff like
First
that?
time, have a
All
baby.
right.
Eliminate and validate and validate and validate.
Stay with us and the Disability Channel.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Today Show Detroit. I am Zach Damon. I am here with Alex Gossage, the Executive Director of the Ann Arbor, Livingston, and Monroe Centers for Independent Living. So excited. And again, Alex, before the break, you talked about a great point about not hesitating to speak up, being able to advocate for yourself, and, being able to ask those questions that you need so that you're able to be independent and have the resources that you need. But I'm curious, could you tell some viewers how they can find out more about the Ann Arbor Center or Livingston or Monroe Centers for Independent Living, and how they can keep up on what you're doing and all of the great services?
So as I mentioned before, there are centers for independent living across the continent, across the world. And so I think the best thing for folks to do is try to figure out if there's a center for independent living that serves where they are coming from. If folks are here in the Ann Arbor area or in Livingston, Washington, Monroe counties, they can Google Ann Arbor Center for Independent Living, and our website will come up, and they can kind of go from there in terms of getting connected with us. But if they're somewhere else in Michigan, for example, they could go to our network website, Disability Network Michigan, and they could find out, which Center for Independent Living might be the most appropriate for them. And then we have, the National Centers for Independent Living that also will keep a directory along with a couple of other organizations that provides contact information for all the centers for independent living in the United States.
Awesome. Wonderful stuff. And, Alex, I just, again, want to give you a big heartfelt thank you for everything that you give to the community of Michigan and for all the service that you've done. for many years. It's very inspiring. And for anyone watching, I encourage you, again, to check out those resources that Alex mentioned, and do not hesitate to reach out, ask questions, find more information about resources so that you can live the best independent quality of life possible. So thank you so much, Alex. And we're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back.
Jay Stoyan here for the Disability Channel, the world's only inclusive channel for and by persons with disabilities. I just want to let everybody know that we are now live on Roku TV, the world's largest IP platform, and it is a free subscription. Again, the Disability Channel is live on Roku TV, the world's largest IP platform, available in more than 27 countries around the world, and it is a free subscription. Subscribe today, the Disability Channel.
Hello, folks, and welcome back to the Today's Show Detroit. I am Zach Damon. That was our show with Alex Gossage, the Executive Director of the Ann Arbor, Livingston, and Monroe Center for Independent Living. And folks, so excited. Thank you so much for joining us. If you would like more information about the Disability Channel and also our employment and media training programs, please do not hesitate to visit our website at thedisabilitychannel.ca. And please be sure to check out all of our social media accounts on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, and give us a follow. We'll follow you back. But for now, I'm Zach Damon with the Today's Show Detroit. We'll see you next time.